There was the part in there that she left out that I'm single, just if you're wondering. Little humor. Okay. I would like to extend gratitude to a few people before I start. Our past, current, and future military families, my mentor, Mark Colazos, sound advisors Granger Ward and Bob Romano, Lauren Ramers for bridging financial equality between stateside and international staff developers, my mother and father, Pam and Jess, the Ramstein AVID site team, and all the students that have tolerated my persistence for excellence, as well as the participants this week. It's probably the best strand that I've had in 5 years as a staff developer, so thank you. I'm honored and humbled by having the honor of a teacher speaker here in Sacramento to share my personal journey of growth. As a representative of all things AVID, being an AVID elective teacher, we're going to learn some foreign language. It's only appropriate coming from Germany, and use some callbacks as we do in the AVID elective class and in our strands. So when I say, if not you, you'll say then who. So let's practice. If not you, great. Prior to my current position at Ramstein Air Base, I spent 4 years in prison. Many people don't know that. It was Gießen American Middle High School, actually, in Germany. Originally being hired as a new reading specialist evolved into AVID mid-year. Thinking back to 2003, the only thing I knew about Germany were the antics that I had seen in the movie European Vacation. Lederhosen, people named Klaus and Dieter, as well as driving fast on the Autobahn, things that really didn't matter. If you're not familiar with our Department of Defense schools here in Europe, I'm going to give you a lesson right now. Cornell notes, you can take out pens, pencils if you want to, but Gießen was one of 4 bases north of Frankfurt that comprised of the U.S. Armed Forces Europe Ready First Armor Brigade, tanks. That's what they were, tanks. That would go on to serve in Iraq's most deadly cities, Ramadi and Fallujah. The school itself had no more than 250 students at any one time over my 4 years. So what would my new adventure bring in Europe? Well, 3 red flags cautioned me that the road ahead would be difficult. Flag 1, a letter arrived thanking me for accepting the position before I actually got a letter inviting me that I was offered one. Flag 2, the school sent the only non-manual driving colleague to fetch me from the airport in a manual car. Now, Germany's known for their Unbegrenzung, so this means unlimited. You can drive as fast as you want, and I know it sounds crazy, but it's probably the only place in the world where you'll see families of 5 or 6 people in a station wagon going down the road at 130 miles plus. And for some reason, that's normal. So when a 40-mile trip took us about 90 minutes, and we stayed in 3rd gear the whole way, something wasn't right. Flag 3, the advice from my principal on the very first day of my job. Don't hit your students, don't show up drunk, and don't date their mothers. At 24, it seemed a pretty good gig, but I didn't know what to make of my first 24 hours. And then again, at 24, what's the big deal? Later did I find out that all of those pieces of advice had actually occurred during the semester prior to my arrival. After my first semester, my assistant principal, who most students referred to as the cowboy, told me that I'd be teaching AVID and I would love it. So those of you in the implementation strand right now, you're probably saying, yeah, I remember a similar conversation a couple weeks ago. My advice is, don't worry, you'll love it. After all, why not dump the least suspecting teacher into a role that examines hordes of data, defines a process for recruiting students, and getting site team members voluntarily participating in meetings? As my first year at Gießen continued, I began to have more and more questions. How would I manage a lack of funding, weak administration, or complacent staff? While many in the school shrugged at my frustrations, it was the students that uncovered my sought answers. Through their gain in the understanding the value of AVID, using inquiry to problem solve, keeping an organized agenda and binder, collaborating with others, things started to click for me. Hey, John, ask questions, collaborate, fail, go back to the drawing board, but always have fun. Always have fun. 12 to 14-year-olds showing me, unintentionally, what AVID really was. With my commitment, these students were bound to succeed. Jawohl. There were many students that I encountered during my decade in AVID, but only a few that really stand out, such as Nico. Nico assisted me with my German telephone bills, translating them. He probably saved me thousands of dollars, only if I would help him with his binder. Aris, with his exploration of career fields, led to home-cooked meals and many cups of espressos and late-night conversations about what the future would hold. I'd like to add that his career choices were not limited by his language fluency in Spanish, German, Farsi, French, and English. Aris is here in the front row, so thanks for supporting me. There was the student Mandy telling me to shake it off when administration, as what I know they usually did, they don't do this now, they made a schedule change that negatively affected her schedule. But she figured, with her dad being deployed for the 4th time or maybe 5th time in 3 years, what's the big deal? Michael, he's one of usually the students that I always have every year. He learned the hard way that Cornell notes were more effective than just memorizing stuff from your classes. It took him 2 years, but eventually he realized, because he realized that resistance in the AVID world is futile. It's not going to happen. At last, students like Gerardo, who only agreed to do homework for his other teachers if I met him on the weekends to buy him pizza. Homework was forbidden at home in his house. It seemed like a good deal for him, but I was trying to think about what I was actually getting out of this. So as a committed educator with roadblocks, you may be wondering, hey, what's AVID going to do for me? What is it going to do? I'm investing all this time. AVID will coach you to believe in your students, their futures, and reflect on why you do what you do, regardless if you're an AVID elective teacher, coordinator, or site team member. Because of the now adults named Nico, Aris, Mandy, Michael, and Rado, I learned not to make excuses, to rise again after you fall, and to be confident with the decisions that will guide your students to college and beyond. My time from 2003 to 2007 at Gießen became more manageable with the help of these students as well as others. A time when 96 soldiers from our community were killed during a 10-month period. That's right, you heard that, 96 deaths in 10 months. Not counting the ones that made it back, maimed or psychologically scarred. To those students that often joked about my straightforward drill sergeant-like demeanor, they used other adjectives as well, none that I will repeat here. You are the ones that define Petrick's army, so thank you. As for Gießen, the school eventually closed. I still haven't purchased lederhosen. I've not met a Dieter in my 12 years, but I have earned 17 speeding tickets and met a few men named Klaus. So when you feel overwhelmed with AVID, look to your students, their goals, and remind yourself, as a committed educator, you are the catalyst for the success of your students. After all, if not you, vielen Dank und bis bald.